What time's it, Kira?
It's time for the State of Podcast song.
No spooky things to say today
Um,
as a callback or So what are we talking about today?
we're talking about the slasher genre, well, subgenre.
So what kind of films are we talking?
I think we're gonna do
The first Halloween film.
a
'Cause we've
heap
only
of
seen
Friday the 13th movies.
The
that we've
first
seen.
6.
Yeah, Hellraiser, Candyman.
Hellraiser 1 and 2.
Oh,
Candyman.
famous.
Both Candyman
Scream.
films. That being the original and the recent one.
I suppose everything really in general, but those kind of more specific ones
Yeah.
because we've watched them.
Yeah.
We can talk.
Yeah,
movies.
Scream. Sort of capping off the ending, I
Yeah.
imagine.
We treat
So I think we should start with Halloween. Just because it's, well,
the first one.
we're recording this on
Well,
Halloween.
is it the first one?
What?
Is Black Christmas before Halloween?
I believe so.
I haven't seen it though.
Because Halloween is kind of like the basis of all of these, I imagine. Very much so Friday the 13th. And, you know, just the idea of there being a slasher icon.
Oh, we didn't talk about Nightmare on Elm Street either.
Oh, we'll talk about that.
Oh, forgot about that. I had
What does that say?
pre-production on it and completely forgot about it.
You have your notes as always, do you?
Yeah, for my terrible memory.
Goldfish, is it? Yeah, Halloween. We watched this, a year ago today?
Severely overrated, I feel.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's obviously the basis of all of them. But it's one that doesn't have much other than it came up with the idea of the tropes that every single one followed, after it. Like.
Yeah. Some very questionable tropes in there as well.
Yeah, just the kind of like silent. Well, not silent.
I do like the killer. I do like the villain idea.
Well, I just
Like
I just don't like the idea of the killer. Like, I am not a big fan of Michael Myers, but we'll get into that.
Okay.
Compared to like even Jason Voorhees, which I think is a better interpretation. But yeah, definitely kind of capped off that, female protagonist, evil bad guy, for some reason, haunting them. A lot of sex and other tropes in there, and really good score.
Made in 4 days or something.
Yeah, made for with a very ambiguous ending. Which I think is kind of strange with those kind of films.
The ending really annoyed me. I actually didn't mind the rest of the film as much, but the ending really, really bothered me.
Simply because you didn't believe him to be this kind of supernatural entity.
Yeah, because I actually had never seen it. I've seen.
Well, I haven't seen it either. Yeah,
I'd seen the opening sequence, which I like. The POV thing.
That was the longest shoot.
Yeah,
wasn't
like
it?
2 days or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of mad, but it is really cool. Like, but I don't even think the kid was there for most of it. It's like
no, it was just the end. It was,
Deborah
I think,
Sands or something.
Yeah,
like
you
writer
got
or something.
yeah.
The producer Sands or something.
John Carter's girlfriend, I believe.
What?
John Carter. Did I say John
Yeah.
Carter? John Carpenter.
John Carter.
At the time.
You tired?
Yeah, well, this obviously kicked off his career, that film, but it also sort of laid the foundation for those low budget horror films, such as like Evil Dead, Friday the 13th, what else? Nightmare on Elm Street. You know, these really kind of low budget slashers which end up making millions. Because they're just made for teenagers, to half of them not really care and just do what they wanted in the cinema, and the other half to kind of partly be interested. But yeah, I mean, it is a very bare bones kind of film. Yeah. And it does show, and you get that, but I think that's the kind of nice aesthetic it's going for.
Oh yeah. I mean, I can't remember, I think it's this one I read that was like John Carpenter had written it as if for like a radio play, so they wanted like scares every like 10 minutes. So if you're really kind of bagging on scares, you're not really worrying too much about how, deep the plot line is going to be or anything.
Well, yeah, because it's kind of weird, because it is a very short film, the first one. And
Well, a lot of these horrors are quite short.
Yeah.
Which is the enjoyable thing about them all, I think.
But it was like when they were doing the second film, which we both haven't seen, a couple of years after, John Carpenter had to film extended scenes for the first film just so it could run on television, essentially.
Right. Okay.
Because you know, for television, you have to cut stuff down for TV.
Yeah.
If it's like, you know, R-rated or there's blood and stuff. But since it was too short, they had to add in scenes. So he basically was filming extra scenes for the film. So there's essentially an extended cut of the first film with those scenes in it.
That'd be very interesting.
Yeah. Sadly, we've not seen the remake. Done by Rob Zombie in like 2007, maybe it was 5.
Yeah, that's the only Halloween movie I've seen. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're gonna.
Because in that one, it's kind of different. It's different in the way that like the first half hour or first 40 minutes are about young Michael Myers.
Oh really?
Yeah, and it's a lot about his backstory and stuff, and his parents were all like drug addicts and stuff.
Oh.
Yeah, and like he had this very abusive upbringing, and then ultimately that's why he ends up being.
But he has an older sister that turns out fine.
No, she's only a baby in that film.
What?
She's a baby.
But he's.
Oh, sorry, you mean the older sister?
Yeah.
Oh, I was on about Jamie Lee Curtis's character. She was a baby, and then you know.
This is what happens.
Mm.
That's very strange. I actually like they want to do, you know, when they were doing all the crossovers and stuff.
Mm.
Did you hear about like the Hellraiser versus Halloween?
I didn't hear about that one.
I think they want to call it like Halloween or something.
That was amazing.
But I don't know too much about it. All I seen was that Clive Barker and John Carpenter both wanted Carpenter was going to direct it and Barker's going to write it, but they wanted to have it so that so Michael Myers, when like he's a kid, somebody like a stranger gifts him the box, and he opens the box, and then like the the Lord of the Dead escapes.
What, Pinhead or
no? Sam Hain or something, or I can't remember. Anyway, it was the Lord of the Dead. Anyway, escapes because he doesn't want to live in hell anymore, and he like possesses Michael Myers' body.
So that's why he ends up being like the murderous killer that he is.
And that's why he's like unkillable and stuff.
Oh, right.
They wanted to do it because like obviously it wouldn't be like a fist fight between Pinhead and so they wanted it to be kind of like a kind of more psychological thing. I thought it would be really cool. But they didn't go with it anyway.
I would have liked that.
Halloween though.
Halloween, it would have been an awful title. I think they would have come up with something better.
Yeah.
It would have been called like Pinhead versus Michael
or something.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so bad.
You know, like Freddy v Jason.
I do like that whole idea though that Michael Myers is just possessed by somebody, because he is not a character. Really. Yeah. He's just, what is it? The Shape? Is that what they call? They
call him the Shape. Yeah.
But
because it's not. He's kind of like he doesn't speak. There's no emotion. That's why he's just the Shape.
Yeah.
But I think my whole idea, like I'm fine with him not speaking, because I imagine like someone who's been institutionalized for so long would just be completely drained of emotion, and I just wish they kind of went more into this in the first film, where it's like he is a product of a terrible system, rather than, you know, he is just like this. They don't really go into it. They're just like, oh no, he's just a psychopath or whatever, because he killed as a child. Like, you know, like I believe if you got a child, you could sway him more into, right, no, this is wrong, you shouldn't do this, you know what I mean? But ultimately it is more of a thing, you know, a pass of the system, really, or a fault of the system. There's not much to talk about with that first Halloween film. No,
only really that it's just,
well, it kind of peaks at the opening scene.
Did it make a lot of money?
Yeah.
And
it didn't cost much.
Horror movies at the time probably weren't making a lot of money, did they?
Low budget. What was this, early 70s? No, it was late 70s. 78?
Yeah, 78.
Yeah. Well, Alien was next year. So,
what are you going to classify as a horror sci-fi film?
It was the 70s. And then when they're leading on to the 80s. I don't know, I think it was just part of the paveway to what happened in the 80s, where it was like, right, we're going to mix like horror with sci-fi.
Yeah, that's true.
And you know that was kind of the big thing. You know, we'll talk more about this when it comes to Friday the 13th, which is what we're going to be talking about right after Halloween, because it only makes sense as it's a carbon copy of Halloween. But I think does it better.
You think Friday the 13th does
I
it better?
do think it does it better than Halloween.
I like the whole idea in Friday the 13th. They wanted to do it so obviously Halloween has a lot of music happening, like
when nothing's happening
on top of the theme.
Yeah.
So they just wanted to literally just have the Friday the 13th theme, well, Jason's theme or whatever, only whenever something bad was going to happen or they were on screen, which I kind of like, because like I like that kind of building up the tension with just silence, really. Yeah, natural sounds or whatever. Because
it literally is just shot in a suburb. That, like Halloween. Like it's so low. Like the mask cost like £6 or something. And they just obviously spray painted it, turned inside out and spray painted it, like.
Yeah.
But I think people like that kind of success story.
Yeah. I like it too. You know what? I was thinking about all the tropes and stuff. Because like Carpenter and what do you call her? Deborah Hill. Did you say they were going out at the time?
I think so.
Oh.
That could be libelous, but we'll just move on with
they co-wrote it or whatever.
Yeah, they're going out.
But because obviously like people get onto them so much. Well,
for sort of like setting the tropes.
Yeah, especially about like kind of the whole you can only survive if you're a virgin. Like.
Oh
kind of
yeah,
and you're just like, we didn't intend it to be like that.
No, I imagine not.
Well, I think like we take everything out of context. Really, I think whatever the directors intended it to be is what you kind of have to take it for, rather than just be looking at over-analysing it for what it isn't.
Yeah.
Because it just wasn't that. Because it was written by, well, in saying that, it just makes sense so that she's the only one that doesn't die, because she's the only one that's not like preoccupied with having sex. She's just no, there's a killer on the list, weird things are happening. Everyone else is just like too busy doing other stuff. I
looked it up there. I don't think they were going out. That could be libelous. Well, I mean, she's technically, I'm not libeling her because she's dead, but I'm libeling John Carter because he's still alive. She can't libel the dead.
Yes. So, well,
if John Carpenter hears this, I apologise in advance.
Is he not dead?
John Carpenter?
Yeah.
No, John Carpenter's still alive.
There we go.
He's still producing Halloween films.
Has he actually?
He's producing them. They keep fucking throwing his name on shit. It's what they do with Cameron. It's like they always get an interview with Cameron. They're like, oh yeah, this is the best Terminator film ever. Can I have my money? Because it's obviously not. Yeah, that's just beating a fucking dead horse at this stage. He didn't want to make a second one. I think we should talk about this. He didn't want to make Halloween 2 because his original idea was the reason why it was called Halloween was to sort of give it an anthology series title, so that like the next film will be about a different killer, and like he wanted it to be an anthology film. Okay. So he didn't want it to be this classic trope of we're just going to Michael Myers in every fucking film.
Yeah.
And obviously that happened with the third one.
Okay.
Because they killed Michael Myers off in the second one. And then the third one, obviously it's all completely different. And it's all about, it's got Season of the Witch. It's all about, it's surrounded sort of more around the kids and the costumes they kind of wear and stuff. But the opening title sequence is amazing because it's all like farm equipment and stuff. And it's an opening montage for the credits, and the director, I can't remember his name, was being interviewed, and they're like, oh, why did you choose that? He was like, well, because Halloween's obviously all about the harvest. And so that's why he wanted to sort of symbolise it in the opening title sequence and stuff.
Oh, I actually really like that.
Like, the third one's kind of strange, because it's the only one that's either rated the lowest on people's list, or the highest.
Okay. Like,
either top 3 or bottom 3. Because people like Michael Myers.
Yeah.
They don't like films without him. Apparently it is getting a sequel.
Oh, okay.
And they're trying to get a sequel going for that one at the minute. But obviously then when it came to the fourth one, they're like, yeah, he's back. That's what it's called, the return of Michael Myers, I think.
God. How did he come back to life? That's the question. In Friday the 13th.
Well, no one from the previous. No, because it's sort of like there's like. Oh, the timelines are weird for that film franchise. There's like 4 timelines. Because like there's the first 2 films.
Yeah.
And that's a timeline.
Oh.
And then there's the first film, 2018 version, Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. That'll be that kind of timeline.
Oh yeah.
Then there's 4, 5, and 6 were its own timeline, I think. And then H2O and H2O2, Halloween Resurrection. It's its own timeline, converge with the first and second film. It's very confusing, but 3's like in its own little bubble. It's not tied to anything else, apparently.
I like that though when they take something and they try to do something different with it, because like the Friday the 13th movies.
Well, they did, technically. We'll talk about that now, in a minute, but I think we should just move on to Friday the 13th. Because obviously it was intended. And Sean Cunningham, the director of the film, the first one, has stated, he was like, yeah, it is a copy of Halloween. Because we saw the success of that and we were fans and we just wanted to make our own kind of spin in it. And I think they did it in a really good way.
Yeah. I think he tried to just sell a film without having a script, just on the name Friday the 13th. Well, I read that.
Yeah.
I could be like,
I've no doubt. Because that film's very much, specifically the first one, completely ad-libbed. And I like that. Because it stands out above the other ones. Because the other ones are obviously scripted.
Yeah.
Because, you know, you see the ending of the previous film for the first 10 fucking minutes of every film after, isn't it?
So
it was fine the second one. Because at least she was having a nightmare.
Yeah.
But the rest of the ones was like, oh, for fuck's sake. You know, but we'll get to that in a minute. So the first Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
Obviously, riding on the tails of the Halloween. I don't even think the second Halloween film had come out yet.
Did the writer have anything to do with? No.
No, I don't think so.
They were just.
Yeah, I think it was just fans.
Okay.
Some big names in this.
Yeah.
Kevin Bacon.
Yep.
That's it.
Well.
Is there more?
Would Betsy Palmer not have been big?
Is she in it?
Yeah. Well, is she not Mrs. Voorhees?
But that was like later on in her career, surely.
I suppose, yeah. Well, nobody's really big. Was Kevin Bacon big at the time?
No, I'm saying he was about to be.
Yeah.
You know, this was his first claim to fame.
I don't think there's. He's great in it though.
Yeah.
He is actually good in it.
Yeah, well, for the 2 scenes he's in.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I kind of like, because there's no real protagonist for this film. It's something they try.
Get the blonde final girl trope though.
But she's not blonde. She's redhead.
Alice?
Yeah, she's redhead. She's short red hair. She's not blonde.
She's
That's the second film.
She's not strawberry blonde.
It's redhead.
I can't remember.
Yeah, because the colour in the second film. By the way, spoilers for all these films. But why would you listen to this if you've not...
are like 30 years old.
Wow, 40, some of them 50, some of them... Nah, 40, some of them.
40.
Yeah, no, like, cause I actually really enjoyed the first one. And I enjoyed the 6th one. And I enjoyed the second... No, I enjoy about half of these that we've watched, I'd say.
Okay.
The other half, I'm like, skip it. You know, you don't really need to watch it. But the first one I do enjoy. I think it's the most overlooked one. Because obviously it famously doesn't have Jason in it.
I think that's why it is the best one.
Yeah.
I love the idea of not having Jason in it, but it's about Jason.
Yeah, because I think it's one thing that they did very interesting. Compared to Halloween, I think what they did very well is they had the killer have a motive.
Yeah.
Which makes it more interesting, and you're like, alright, I can understand why this character does this, but is obviously so stricken by grief that it's become psychotic in a way.
Yeah. I think
because of the negligence.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because of the negligence of the camp, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Isn't that how Jason
Yeah. He drowned because they were just away riding, I think.
Of course they were. It's a horror movie.
Well, yeah, that's what I kind of like about these films. That it's like. It is like they are the cause in a way, even though they aren't. Because they obviously none of them do it go to the camp to become counselors for. Oh, I want to have the responsibility of looking after kids.
Yeah.
That's obviously not the
No.
reason, and you can see that in every fucking film.
Bit of freedom.
Yeah, like, because just even, what was I gonna say? Just the whole idea of having it at a camp where it is secluded as well.
Oh yeah, it makes it so much more playful, I think, for different things.
Yeah.
Because there's nobody about. You don't really have questions.
Yeah, because like Michael Myers just kills people.
Yeah. And you
But he
wonder
doesn't
how
kill kids.
nobody has seen him.
Yeah.
You know, if he's standing out on the middle of the road.
Yeah.
Like, in the middle of a busy suburbs, like, you're just kind of like, how has nobody seen him? Whereas, like, if he's in the woods...
But this is also a very good kind of murder mystery, because you do sort of suspect some characters are a bit shady and stuff, because they just disappear and a murder will happen, and it's from the murderer's point of view, rather than you seeing the actual murder.
Yeah.
Something that they fail at later on in the franchise.
Well, I think anything I've read though has said that the writer was so disappointed that they made sequels where Jason was the killer, because he had written it that
Jason died.
Yeah.
And that there has this ambiguous ending, obviously, but you know it's up to interpretation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
because that twist.
I actually don't like that at the end.
No, I don't like the twist in part 2. Well, I think that's what's done talking about part 1. Well, I think we're just going to talk about Friday the 13th collectively.
Yeah.
We'll just shout every once in a while what we're talking about, which one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the second one was very disappointing for me because I was very excited to see Jason for the first time. I think the first time you truly see him is the fourth one, because in the third one obviously he gets his proper attire, you know, his mask and his outfit and the machete.
Yeah.
But it's in 3D.
Yeah. And
it's really shit. So I don't count it. Whereas the fourth one, which is obviously meant to be the final chapter, but also the start of Tommy Jarvis's trilogy.
Yeah.
Which I kind of enjoy.
Oh, I like the Tommy Jarvis thing.
Yeah, even that the middle one's a bit ropey.
Yeah. Well,
I think it does have some interesting qualities to it.
Yeah.
I think they were very experimental with that trilogy compared to the first 3 films.
Yeah.
Because the first 3 films, first one obviously, it is what it is. Second one, they were just kind of carry on tropes from the first one, but they were just like, we'll have Jason be alive. That's the twist. You know.
My favourite part about the second one, as you know, was whenever your one picks up the chainsaw, bites Jason off, but I've never seen him react. He's so scared in the moment. I would love to see more moments.
Yeah, because that was the Jason that's been the shortest Jason.
Yeah.
In the franchise. And obviously there was a lot of, because all these films are made a year apart.
Oh my god!
Yeah, I always forget that they're all made. I think, like, maybe there's a bit of a jump between 3 and 4. I think maybe 2 years. I could be wrong.
Wow.
But other than that, they're all a year apart essentially.
I think whenever you keep making movies in a franchise,
but it's a very different. It's a different director every time as well.
I know, but
I think it's very weird.
Quality declines.
Oh, completely.
You can only get so many.
Well, I think to a degree.
Well,
some things. I think halfway through that franchise, I think by the fourth film. Yeah, by the fourth film, they're like, right, we know everything about Jason. This is the way he is. He's basically supernatural almost. And he is like this entity in brute force. And they basically made Jason who he was. It took about 3 films to get him there. So you see that light progression. But I always find it kind of strange how 2, 3, and 4 are all set across like 6 days. Because I had told you this after we watched them, because I looked it up. I was like, oh my god, these are all set across 6 days. Yeah. Which makes some sense in a way.
Yeah, because otherwise you'd be wondering why people are still coming back to these places.
Yeah. I'm just like, what the fuck? What's going on?
Going back to places similar.
Yeah. And it's a different camp. Every time.
It is a different camp,
but because the first film is set a year after Jason's death, I think.
Really? Is that all?
I think it's only a year or 2.
I thought it was years after.
Maybe it was, but I don't think it's that long. Because the second film is 10 years after the first one.
Oh, right, okay. I mean,
It's 5 or 10 years after the first one, because they're talking about it. It's like, oh, you know, so and so many years ago.
No, your one that plays Alice in the first film. Because she's only in a tiny wee bit of the second one.
Just to start.
She, like, apparently she asked for a really, really small role because she was being stalked at the time by, like, an obsessive fan.
Oh, really?
She was terrified for her life to be involved
Yeah,
in anything. So
that's why she was like, kill me off.
She was like, kill me in the second, and then she didn't show up for anything to do with the film for like 20 years.
Yeah, because like the only kind of really recurring character other than Jason is Tommy Jarvis.
Yeah.
And he's only in 3 films.
And he's played by a different person in every
Yeah, because
film.
right, so what happens is 4, 5, and 6 were all made a year apart, obviously. So like 85, 86, 87, I think, or something like that. 84, 85, 86. But they obviously wanted to do a progression of Tommy. So they had Tommy as a kid, Tommy as a like teen, and then Tommy as an adult. Which I kind of like. I just thought it was very weird how they're all like a year apart from completely different directors. I do think the weakest is the middle one of that trilogy, the 5th one.
Yes.
Because
I
it's
agree.
just such a ridiculous film.
It's so all over the place though.
Like,
I actually forgot about
I
it.
commend them for doing the twist, because the twist is actually interesting.
What was the twist?
Because at this point we're thinking, oh well, Jason's just supernatural.
Oh,
Because
wait.
Jason dies in the 4th film.
Yeah.
And then we're like, oh, Jason's obviously supernatural, he's walking about. But then they do the whole twist is, do you remember the guy who axed
Oh, yeah.
the guy?
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, he was
And
his son
he was the paramedic's son secretly or something, right? And then the paramedic ends up being the killer.
Yeah. I forgot about
Because he just basically goes insane. I thought it was interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that ending's mental, where they were trying to do, right, Tommy's gonna be the next Jason.
Yeah.
I was like, who thought that was an idea? That's horrible.
Well, see, I think as well, because I do kind of believe it in a sense, because in the 4th film, you know, when Tommy does kill Jason, he like properly kills it, like he goes for it. So there's a wee bit of craziness in it when you see that happening. So I guess it is a bit of believable.
Well, I think what they wanted to show was it was just this progression of the steps into like a new character. So like he had a traumatic experience which ultimately made him the next killer.
Yeah.
And it's almost like a pass on the baton in a way. I do like some subtle things, like the mask is different.
Yeah.
In 5, which gives a little subtlety to that.
Yeah.
Some of the kills are just like, Jason would have done that.
What,
So that's
like
kind
the
of like
hanging from the barn and stuff?
Yeah, just the kind of like Jason was not like this.
Oh, there were some really weird kills.
Yeah.
No, I think, was there one like where he throws something and they're stuck to the wall, or
Something weird like that. Yeah, because remember he chains someone, cuts their neck or something, cuts their neck off or something.
yeah, there's some like
Or he gets a belt.
some bad visual effects going on as well.
Yeah.
But
they're all low budget.
yeah,
So it's kind of like,
practical. as
I'm
long
just
as
like,
it's mostly
fair enough.
practical.
We're kind of fine that kind of department. But, yeah, it's an interesting franchise to say the least.
Yeah.
Like, we're halfway through it essentially.
Yeah,
So we
just
watched the first
just
6.
watched Jason Lives, and whenever you put it on, immediately,
It's so good.
well, I hated it.
Really?
Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah, because it's so
Whenever
ridiculous.
Whenever they're in the
Oh, yeah,
cemetery,
yeah.
and you were just like, "Oh, it looks like it was shot in a real cemetery, all right."
And it's it's just a set.
It just is just a
Yeah,
soundstage,
and then you're watching it, and I know what's gonna happen.
oh yeah, because you were just like, "Oh, I know what they're gonna do here," and I was like,
Yeah, and you're like, what? And then they get the
And then,
spear, and and you're like, oh, what's wrong with that? And I was like, no, it's a bit stormy, isn't it? And you're like, oh god.
So lightning is what.
Well, you just knew
revives
exactly
Jason.
what it was when he threw the. Do you know I always loved? Do you know how his entire body's rotten?
Yeah.
I love how he opens his eyes; his eyeballs are fine.
Yeah, but none of it makes sense. Did it just grow all back on him?
But I
in the
think
middle?
that film's so good because it embraces it. Like it really embraces. It's just like, oh, this is just sort of we're taking the piss.
Oh, I didn't hate the film after that.
No,
I hated it in the first couple of minutes, and then
Because
I
you don't
realised
realize
what it
that
was.
it's being self-aware,
Yeah.
essentially. Because I think that's what is so good about that 6th film. Because it's self-aware. Because at this point, it's like, it's the 6th film in a fucking franchise. There's no, in the fucking slasher franchise. The fact that these are still getting theatrical releases is laughable, right?
I think that's why they did the James Bond opening, because it was just like to
Oh,
show
yeah.
it was going to be something.
Oh yeah, just to
completely
show, right,
different.
we're just taking the piss, right? Just enjoy it. And it is such an enjoyable film.
Yeah,
Because...
it is really funny.
Yeah.
And no,
because A, it's good closure for fans of like that trilogy and Tommy Jarvis and stuff.
Yeah.
B, it's good for fans of just Friday the 13th in general and just seeing Jason kill a bunch of people. And C, it's just great for fans who don't like the franchise because it just takes the piss of itself.
Yeah.
You know, and the director willingly said that. He was like, yeah, I just want to kind of have a bit of fun of it, like.
Yeah, it is enjoyable, and I think it does. Oh, it's good for Tommy Jarvis's character. I feel like they actually do a bit of justice to his character.
Where he kind of comes full circle.
Yeah.
Where he's just like, no, we need to kill him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is weird. The problem I have with that film is I know it's taking the piss, but why does Tommy assume that the only way to defeat Jason is to drown him in the lake that he drowned in? It's just such a stretch.
I think it's because there's no way lightning's going to hit him or he's going to be resurrected. No, I think it was more of he saw it as a prison for him.
Oh, he didn't think it was going to kill him. He just wanted
No,
to
I
trap
think,
him in
yeah,
it.
because he's obviously afraid of swimming.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
So that would be an initial fear. So that's why he drowned him at the bottom of a lake and snapped his neck while he still lived.
Yeah.
Because that title actually spoils the beginning and the ending of that film. Because Jason does live.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, we haven't seen the seventh film called A New Blood. We haven't seen Jason Takes Manhattan. We haven't seen Jason Goes to Hell. We haven't seen Jason X. We haven't seen Freddy v Jason. And we haven't seen the Friday the 13th remake.
Yeah.
Which is part of the Transformers universe.
Oh no.
Do you know that?
No.
So in the first
I
Transformers
did hear
film...
it, but I forgot about it.
Yeah, first Transformers film, 2007. The guy that bullies Shia LaBeouf's character...
Yeah.
Called Travis.
Hmm.
He's in Friday the 13th, produced by Michael Bay. And his character is called Travis.
Yeah.
Now, he must be connected in some way.
Yeah.
You know, I think it was probably a sly nod. So technically that character dies in that universe. By Jason Voorhees.
Oh my god. Okay. The only reason to watch Transformers.
Yeah. Well, I think that's why a lot of people kind of associate Jason Voorhees with Friday the 13th and ignore the first film and forget that he's not in it because he's in the remake.
Yeah. I actually just thought, because whenever tropes obviously come into it, do you know everybody who really dies, it's because they're like drinking, doing drugs, having sex, like doing all this kind of like promiscuous behavior.
No, it's bad, yeah,
really bad behavior,
Yeah,
and they're
yeah,
getting
yeah.
punished for it. Is it in the second film or in one of the Friday the 13th? It's either 2, 3, or 4. One of the boys fucks off to a bar, and he's the only one out of the group that survives because
he stays in the bar
and he's getting drunk in a bar.
Yeah.
So he did avoid. So they unintentionally avoided their own trope, but
Well, I think they
I really like that.
either they didn't want to pay him anymore, low budget wise, or they didn't know how to kill him and there was little budget left.
They were just like, oh, we'll put him in a bar, it'll be grand.
Well, we've not seen A New Blood, but I've read you the
Yes.
synopsis of the film, which was
Ridiculous.
amazing. Because realistically, there was nothing supernatural about these films other than Jason.
Yeah. And
Realistically. By the way, going back to, because I think if we're talking about supernatural, him being electrocuted back to life, obviously being the director used as a reference. Yeah, at this point, you may as well just do the old Frankenstein way and just kind of bring him back to life with lightning. That was his kind of, which I kind of like, because Jason is more of this kind of like Frankenstein's monster at the end of the day.
That's true.
Held together with tape.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So Jason's freed from his watery prison by a telekinetic teenager. Now, I don't know about you, but at what point do we get telekinesis in these films? No, but does that really show how little imagination they had left with this, right? Like, how little hope? It's like, well, we're on the 7th one.
Yeah.
Telekinesis, why not? You know.
That's so funny.
Like, what do you do next?
I'm
Go
not
to
looking
hell?
forward to this one. Is that connected to Hellraiser, though?
Well, we'll get into that
Mm.
in a minute because. Well, I'll tell you what I know about the other films so far. When it comes to Jason Takes Manhattan,
Oh God.
they had no. They were about to shoot, but they had no permits to shoot in Manhattan, New York. So that's why most of the films set in a boat getting to New York. So most of the film is them on a boat and Jason killing people on a boat.
Is it like a big boat?
I assume so, yeah. Well, it's not a dinghy. You'd hardly be hiding.
A short film.
Aye. Yeah,
Well, I was
Jason's
kind of more
fucking
thinking, is it a
evolved into
cruise
Jaws at this point. Because I think at that point you've kind of exhausted the idea of campsites. You know, you've done 7 fucking films.
I just think it sounds like more like a rom-com or a
Yeah.
drama or something.
Well,
Jason Takes Manhattan.
You'd enjoy Jason X because it's obviously you need to have a film set in space in the near future.
No, I can't.
There's robots in that film. I think John Glover's in that film. Yeah, but they basically get Jason from the lake, and then like this Iron Man metal shit goes on him, and he basically gets an upgrade where he's made of fucking metal and indestructible, which is amazing. But he looks class.
Yeah.
But then obviously Freddy v Jason.
Yeah.
That's what it is. I mean, they were tying. Well, the original ending of that was going to tie into Hellraiser.
Okay.
Which was the end credit scenes. Both of them were dragged into hell, and it was going to be Pinhead from Hellraiser greeting them, and it was to set up a sequel, but they couldn't get the rights to it.
Oh.
So that's why they didn't do it in the end.
I don't know. I don't know if I'd like to have seen all 3 of them together. That would have been a wee bit too much for me.
Well, I'm surprised we didn't get more crossover events.
Well, the thing is as well as Hellraiser, Pinhead's a very different character to those 2. To Freddy and Jason.
Well, I think it will explain the mythical origins of Freddy.
Oh, Freddy's
not Freddy. Well, to be honest, Freddy and...
Well,
I think those 3 characters make sense. Because those 3 characters constantly come back to life.
out of all of the kind of iconic films, who do you like the best?
Pinhead.
Yeah.
I just think because there's so much you can do with that.
Yeah.
Because I think Nightmare on Elm Street, they've sort of exhausted the extent of what you could do with Freddy in that film.
Yeah.
It's like, that's it. Dreams done. You know. You know, he just haunts you in your dream. You could just stay up all night.
I just think Freddy is the scariest concept, though.
Why? Because he doesn't take himself seriously.
Well, yeah.
But like so does Pinhead does it as well, because he always like has a cheeky smile when he's saying his lines.
Yeah, but it's...
And Doug Bradley's just amazing.
Yeah. I know it's not that I think he is scary too, but like out of all of them, the idea of never being able to sleep, and then whenever you do sleep, there's just this crazy man laughing. Like there's nothing worse than somebody who's actually not taking themselves seriously, but they're trying to kill you. Well,
actually, I think.
But I don't think Nightmare on Elm Street's the best film. I just think Freddy is probably the best for me.
Well, no, I think like my 2 favourite, and this is probably because I like Clyde Barker, are Candyman and
Candyman's great, yeah.
Because both of those characters, it's not like they stumble into your life. You basically summon them. It's your fault as to why they torture you, essentially. Yeah. You are the reason why they're here, you know.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so good about it. That, you know, curiosity killed the cat, essentially. You know. I think... Well, what should we move on and talk about Hellraiser.
Sure.
Because you've only seen the first 2.
And I won't be seeing any more.
And I've seen the first 4, and I had to cut it off because I was like, right, I'll only watch the theatrical release films.
Yeah.
And I remember watching it with my mate, and I jokingly said before we watched the 4th one, because we were watching like one a week or something, I jokingly said, I was like, oh, this is kind of like the end game of the Hellraiser franchise. and the last line of dialogue in the film is "This is the end game, Pinhead," and I burst out laughing. I looked at him. We both were like, "What the fuck?"
That's awful.
Because I just jokingly said this, and it ended up happening.
Well, they done Endgame before Marvel did it.
Yeah.
No, I think Marvel stole.
Marvel stole from the very obscure Hellraiser Bloodlines, the fourth film in the franchise.
I like the idea of Hellraiser.
I just don't think they do enough of it.
I mean, I think. Well, I don't like just gore. I don't know. It's.
Well, I think it's had the
really
most
raw.
unfair.
It's really raw. Like, it's like watching Saw, but just weird Saw.
Yeah, mythical Saw.
Like yeah.
Well, no, because I think it's very
gross,
weird
like...
because it's the one underappreciated one, and it's simply because it's never been directed by an actual proper director. You've seen it in Friday the 13th. Has been directed by proper directors.
It's a bit too weird for people, to be honest.
Yeah, but that's the problem. I think if you get a good director, they could do it really well.
No, the lore is weird. No, because it's really sexual.
Yeah, but I think that's... Yeah.
No, like, but not in like a teen way. Like, it's like really...
Oh, it's proper R-rated. Like, it's fucked up.
And
like...
it's like cults inspired by Catholicism and
mental
S&M.
shit. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's really...
Because I think it's like the most open-ended one.
I don't think it's underrated. I think it's really niche. I don't think people are in... Because personally, I wouldn't really into it. I was just interested in the concept, but... Yeah. It's very out there. Like, creepy.
But I'm hoping that they eventually do like a Candyman situation. Where you do get like a big director. And you get big name actors. And you do like spiritual successor. And ultimate, like I think that's the one thing I could say of that franchise. Doug Bradley's like, listen, I'll do it. Just get me a good script. You know, he did 7 shitty directed DVD films. Yeah. And then the most recent 2, he was like, no, fuck that. It's really shit. How bad did they have to be? Yeah. You know, but he's up for it.
I mean, he's great. He's the best part about the
well, yeah, you can see why they kept him on.
Yeah.
Because the ending of the second film was meant to be, instead of his head, it was meant to be Julia's head. And she was meant to be like the carry-on villain of the franchise.
Julia kind of freaks me out.
Yeah, but after that point they realised, they're like, oh no, people love Pinhead. We'll keep him going.
Yeah.
So he's in like the third one and shit, like, you know. Which is kind of a very interesting, because the third one's literally all about his character.
Well, you know what's really weird though? And this might just be a personal thing, but I think there's something more sincere about Pinhead than there is about Julia. Like,
because he was at least a human, and he's basically a tortured soul.
Julia's just evil. Like,
because he doesn't know who he is essentially. Yeah,
she's just crazy. Like, I didn't really know what was happening in the second movie, and I'm not gonna lie, I was very confused
there was the second one had a lot of problems, and there was a lot of unfinished plot lines and stuff, and they kind of merged what they had, because it was like they had a deadline, and it was like 3 million at the film cost, and they were just like, yeah, no, we kind of have to get this done in a year, because you know people like the first one, but then the third one came out a couple of years after, and it's at least a bit more it's like the first one consistence wise, where it's about this journalist. I think it's about a journalist investigating the boxes and stuff, and the whole murders behind the boxes. And sort of delves deep into the lore of Pinhead, because she keeps getting visions from his human form, and he's like, no, right, Pinhead's going to be released. You got to help me before he gets released. You got to stop that from happening. Like, so it like it's at that point they were like, oh yeah, it's all about him. Okay. Like, it took until the third film for them to be, because like they were making the second one right after the first one.
Yeah, and they kind of
they had started writing the second one, and they were like, oh, we'll do Julia's big film, but then everyone liked Pinhead. All right, we'll just carry him on, because I think he's a very interesting character.
Yeah,
and not many people know him. Like, not many people have seen Hellraiser and they don't know of him.
No, I didn't know.
But I think he's more
like 2 weeks
interesting
ago.
than, you know, Jason or Michael Myers, like,
Yeah.
as a character.
Well, the producers were like really, like a lot of producers at the time were really against. Apparently, they were really against the idea of Pinhead.
Really?
Yeah, because obviously you had like Freddy Krueger, who was like kind of goofy. in a
Oh,
way.
yeah.
And then you had like Jason and Michael Myers, who were like the silent killer. So they were like, oh, choose which one you're gonna do. Like instead of like this like really intelligent, articulate kind of guy.
Yeah.
Which is way more scary than like the silent killer. You can only go so far with that. I can't take Freddy seriously because he's so goofy.
Yeah.
Like he's just so silly. Whereas like Pinhead's actually terrifying because like he can get the best
threat.
of you. Yeah.
Yeah, like he's unkillable.
Yeah.
He is an unstoppable force, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, apparently producers were really against it at the time.
Strange.
Well, I do get it though, because people don't like taking chances.
Yeah.
But like, it had low budget.
It was successful.
And it was successful.
I think it was the one with the most films.
What?
Hellraiser is probably the one with the most films in the series.
Friday the 13th?
Well, how many Friday the 13th films are there? Is there 12?
How many
Maybe
Hellraiser
Friday the
films is
13th.
there? Oh, there's not that many Hellraisers, is there?
Well, you have the first one, the second one, the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, 8, 9, 10. Okay, there's 10.
Oh my god, that's way too
And then
many.
there's one coming out next year, which is a reboot.
Apparently there's rumours that they're going to make Pinhead a woman.
Yeah. No, she is. She's Jamie Clayton's playing Pinhead, which makes sense.
Really?
Because in the book, Pinhead's a woman.
No way.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
That'll be
But
interesting.
it's like the lead Cenobite. She's called.
Yeah.
She's called like Head Cenobite.
She's not going to be called Pinhead.
No.
I don't think.
No,
Clive
that
Barker
only
likes the name.
came. It was the third film they finally called him Pinhead.
I don't think Clive Barker likes the name.
No, it's because
He was called the priest or something.
yeah, he was
initially.
originally called. Well, you can tell by the attire and stuff. Like it's more of like a demonic priest essentially.
I mean, it all works.
Oh
it just
yeah,
feels like a cult.
yeah. But it was more of the cast and crew kept calling it Pinhead just because
Yeah,
it was like, looks like a pinhead. So then it eventually stuck.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because I think you need like a name.
Yeah, you do.
You know, like The Shape.
The Shape, yeah.
Or Jason Voorhees.
Yeah.
Because it's such an obscure name, Jason Voorhees.
Or Ghostface.
Or Ghostface, yeah. I just love like 'cause it just takes Freddy Krueger again, niche name.
Yeah. Freddy.
Chucky.
Can we move on to Nightmare on Elm Street whenever
Of
you're done?
course. Well, I don't think there's much more to say about it other than I'm really hoping this film is good. This remake. Well, actually, I don't because it's a remake. I just wish it was because it's been in production hell for years.
Oh yeah.
Like it was originally going to come out in 2008, and then it got a change of release in 2009, and then there was nothing, and then people for years wanted to make it, and then it's just been in production fucking hell essentially. I don't see it doing well.
Pun intended.
I don't see it doing well.
No. When is it set? When is it meant to release?
Next year,
Oh,
2022. It doesn't say exactly.
No dates.
David Esquire is apparently writing it. I'm worried because he's hit or miss. I don't know if he's currently writing this one or if he was doing a previous one. There's no one in it that's actually a big name, which could be good or bad. I know it's
So we basically know nothing. Have nothing to go off.
pretty much other than we know that it's a remake. And
With a
female pinhead.
That's enough.
Yeah.
And
So people are gonna hate it anyways, because that is
I
it's a
don't
female
think
pinhead.
as I said, it's kind of niche.
Oh yeah, it's niche, but it's also the fact that it's a remake.
Yeah.
It's a direct remake, and remakes haven't been doing well recently.
Too many That's because everything's a remake
Right.
or a reboot.
Friday the 13th remake didn't do that well, so I didn't do a second one.
Yeah.
The Chucky remake didn't do well, so they've made it into a remake TV show.
Yeah, Scream done a TV show.
Again,
Well, now
remake.
they're making a film. Well, it's
Not
made.
remake, but
Is it a sequel?
what Scream?
A new Scream coming out next
The
year?
Scream, yeah, that's the sequel. It's the film.
Oh yeah, because Sydney's in it. And
Yeah, all the cast are in it. It's called. It's just they didn't want to call it Scream 5 because they're like, that was the reason.
That's so confusing.
No, I know. I think they should have just called Scream 5 and just kept with the satire. Nightmare on Elm Street had a remake. They were like, oh no, this is going to do so well. Production company, they were like, right, we've greenlit the second one, and Jackie, what do you call him? Played Rorschach in Watchmen.
Oh god.
Jackie Earl Haley or whatever.
Okay.
He played Freddy Krueger in the film.
Yeah.
He had signed on for a sequel. Rooney Mara signed on for a sequel, and as soon as the first one came out, they were like, "Yeah, no, we're just cancelling them," because no one wanted to see it. Essentially, I think it's because it was 2010 or something, and it was like, "No, this is serious. This isn't goofy. No, this is gonna be a proper scary film." Like, you know, Friday 13th was the same thing, where they tried to be like very serious.
Yeah.
I think with slashers, you need to embrace the silliness to some degree.
Well, they're.
Because the only one that's done it well has been Candyman recently, I'd say.
Yeah, well, Candyman's freaky.
Oh, yeah. But fucking Hellraiser, like, you know.
I know, but Hellraiser's really camp in a way. But
that's just because they were from the 90s and 80s. I think it's just because the period those films were set and then when they were made and they were low budget. Whereas you can do a low budget art house film of it now. You know,
yeah, well,
Candyman's a great example of that.
Yeah.
You know, we're in a new era now.
Yeah.
Like, it's been 30, 40 years since some of these films.
It'll be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah.
Did you like Nightmare on Elm Street, the original?
I didn't enjoy it too much.
Yeah.
I think unknowingly it was a satire, but it wasn't intended to be a satire. I thought the theme's nice. I enjoyed the theme, and I enjoyed the character of Freddy Krueger.
The acting was the worst I've ever seen in any of the slasher
Everyone
movies.
but Robert Englund was pretty bad.
Like, it was the worst.
Oh yeah, like Robert Englund was just like, I'm just having fun. You know.
Yeah.
The acting was awful. Like we knew it straight away. You knew, well, Johnny Depp wasn't even doing well. Johnny Depp, he was doing alright.
He had nothing.
He was coming off of that.
Yeah.
You know.
No, because he had just been in a band or something before.
Yeah, but that was it. That's all he had to do.
I mean, yeah, so many things confused me about that film because, do you know the way?
Well, I do find it weird that like people genuinely are scared of that film because it's not. It's really funny.
Oh, and like
so awful.
Freddy's like tripping around.
He's taking the piss.
So strange.
But I think that's obviously terrifying if you were in the film because it's like this guy's just taking the piss and I know he's gonna kill me.
Well,
you know.
To watch it's not scary, but like if you were in it, it would be really scary.
Oh yeah.
But you know the part. So obviously, I can't remember your one, the main character in it, but her mother was involved with the killing of Freddy, and I remember whenever when I heard about that the first time, I was just kind of like, but when did that happen? Yeah,
they don't really specify when or like what happened at all, or they don't really go into that. They go more into it in the remake.
Yeah. But she tells her mum. You know when she tells her mum that about Freddy Krueger. I don't know. Does she tell her the full name?
Freddy Krueger.
And she describes him.
Yeah.
To her. Or maybe she doesn't give him the name. But anyway, she the mother doesn't like she killed this guy, and she still takes her daughter to go see like a psychiatric to a psychiatric hospital.
I think she didn't want to come to terms with her own mistake. In a way.
Because it really bothered me. I was just like, oh, is this a mistake or is this?
I don't think it's that good of a film.
Well,
and that's the best in the franchise. I don't want to know what the rest are like. You know what I mean? Like, if that's the best, Jesus.
Yeah.
I'm surprised Wes Craven had a career. You know.
Yeah, Wes Craven.
Do you have much more to say about that?
No, we can move on. Speaking of about Wes Craven.
Yeah, I was going to say Scream.
It's
that was
nice
a swift transition. Well, also related to Jason Lives.
Exactly.
And Halloween. I think this is a good wrap up. I think this is the one that kind of wrap them all up, because Scream is
my favorite one.
well, I think Scream's the Watchmen of the slasher genre.
Did you like it any more the second time?
You will get into that.
Because you didn't actually say if you
Yeah, I know. But I think it's the Watchmen of the slasher genre.
Okay.
In terms of
satire of
it's complete satire on the whole genre.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, but done well.
Oh, do you think
Well, you
so?
see, I didn't like the film the first time.
Yeah.
Because I had the only slashers I had seen had been Hellraiser, Candyman, and when did we watch that?
I can't remember, but I think we watched Scream before we watched all the rest of them.
That's what I was thinking. So that's why I wasn't familiar with those films, and I'd only seen Candyman a couple of months prior.
Candyman's different as well. I think Candyman doesn't fall into as many tropes as the rest of them do. It does, but it doesn't, because it has more interesting.
No, I think that's just Clive Barker though, because I think even Hellraiser.
That's different, yeah.
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 Like I think they're their own way kind of. That's why there's people don't like them, because they're different. Because the other ones are all pretty much the same.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah, they're
systematically.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed Scream this time around, because I didn't enjoy it when we first watched it.
Oh, good. So you can't wait for the second one then?
We'll see. No, my only problem is I fear that it's gonna devolve into, oh no, these are slashers and aren't satires.
Yeah,
I think that's what my problem is going to be with these films.
I can't actually remember.
The only thing I do have faith in is the fact that Wes Craven directed all these four, which is very unusual for a director.
They feel the same, but I haven't seen them in years.
Obviously, he's not doing the recent. Sadly, he's dead now.
Yeah.
Scream 4 was his last film, I believe.
Oh really? Scream 4 is a weird one for me. But say I watched, because I had the four of them on DVD, and they were the only slasher films I'd ever seen as a kid.
But that's kind of surreal to you. Like, did you not realize that there was satire until you grew up?
Not until I grew up, yeah. Because I hadn't seen any other slasher films.
Yeah, because I remember watching it, I was like, are people actually scared of this? Because it's so funny. It's such a funny film. Because I was like, because this is what I hate. I like Watchmen. I'm a big Watchmen fan. I really fucking hate it when people watch Watchmen and take it so seriously, because it's such a fucking satire. You know what I mean? Because most people don't read. Most people have watched the film and haven't read the comic, like. Yeah. And people are like, oh yeah, I love the grit. I love how gritty it is. And, like the blood. No, I'm like, because it's a fucking satire. It's not, it's obviously trying to be a fucking comic book, like. But that's the same how I feel with the Scream film. Yeah. Because people really love this franchise, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, either is it consistent, or does it just eventually just become a slasher? Because that's the one thing I'm worried for. I
don't remember. We're going to have to watch it.
We are going to watch them before the new one comes out in January.
Like, Scream is... Why I like Scream now is because, obviously, it had no slasher films. Well, the 80s would have been, like, the golden age of slasher films.
Yeah, I think we were coming out of slashers. The slashers that had only come out were the odd Friday the 13th.
Yeah, because...
Very odd. And I think we were about to get like a new Halloween film, and Hellraiser was the only thing kind of filling the 90s.
Were they not going like straight to DVD or video?
Hellraiser only went straight to DVD in the 2000s.
But they were doing really bad at the box office.
They were doing alright. They weren't doing massively well.
I know after like the sixth, like after Jason Lives, that's the first one that didn't make over like 20,000 or 20. What do you call it?
Well, I think that's kind of. I sort of
so.
see Scream as the Office of its genre in terms of the Office. Often I'm talking about the original Office, the UK. Yes. I don't watch that shitty US version. Sorry, I just have to clarify. I'm just sick of people talking about the US Office. Yeah. Fucking awful. Anyways, the Office, right your bit. Because the whole idea behind that was it was basically a satire on these documentaries and work life, and they wanted to do a mockumentary on people going inside and looking at businesses and interviewing people and stuff. I think that's exactly what Scream is, where it is this genuine take the piss, because they had just the 80s were filled with slashers.
Yeah.
They had just come from that.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it was the perfect time to sort of do it, mid-90s.
Yeah.
Where you could also do like your own spin on it.
Yeah.
But there's also kind of cool the fact that they got a slasher director to direct it.
Yeah. Who didn't want to do it?
Yeah, because he would
was
become
very good.
synonymous with
Yeah.
slashers at that point.
Well, like I said
just
earlier, Oliver Stone had wanted
Yeah.
to direct it.
That would have been awful. Because there's only one Oliver Stone film I like, I think. The Doors.
The Doors, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I like any others. I have seen others.
Yeah.
Natural Born Killers
Natural
couldn't
Born Killers,
get
yeah.
past first 10 minutes.
Oh, right.
Oh,
Okay.
so bad. I showed you it. So disorientating. Oh
Yeah.
my god.
Fair enough.
Yeah, can completely understand why Tarantino hates it.
Yeah, so Scream, I don't know. I think the opening scene of Scream is so iconic. And
That's been parodied to shit.
so much, but I actually think it might have been Drew Barrymore's idea to do that. So she had signed on to play the main character, Sydney. And then, I don't know, before they started production, she was like, oh, I kind of want to play Casey instead. And they were all like, no, like, you're going to sell the film. And she was just like, I don't know. It kind of gives
Because her name she does sell the film.
She does sell
I
the film.
think all the
She's
trailers
90s, like,
were that opening scene.
yeah.
You know.
Well, she's like,
Yeah.
she is the 90s.
I don't know why.
Oh, she's not
She's
great.
Awful.
She's real bad
It's literally
actress.
she has a name.
I literally just watched Never Been Kissed there like
Yeah.
a couple of weeks ago. It was a terrible film. And she was not good.
She hasn't been good
But
since E.T.
She is good now. I do actually like her in Scream. But it is satirical, so...
Was this during her coke addiction?
Well...
I imagine so.
But like... You know, do you know in Psycho, the way your wand dies, is it Marion? Is that her main character?
Spoilers for Psycho.
Oh, yeah. Oops.
Doesn't matter.
I mean,
Doesn't
you know,
matter.
I've seen it
Yeah,
already.
everyone knows about Psycho. Yeah, well.
Yeah, and she dies. But you've been with her, like, that. I think it was...
Oh, like halfway through the film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it gives you that kind of a vibe.
Where you're a
it's
bit
just
shocked.
like... Because it was shocking.
Well, I knew this going in,
But
because I've obviously seen
yeah.
that parody to shit.
But I imagine in the 90s...
Oh yeah, that was a shock,
That
where
would've
the
been
main
such a shocker.
protagonist is
Yeah.
killed straight away.
Yeah, because I remember
'Cause, like,
I had watched it and I was
At
like,
that point,
shocked.
they had moved on to protagonists. Like, obviously, you had it in Halloween already. Friday 13th, they had already just done a protagonist.
Yeah.
And, you know, there is this idea of... I think another trope is just a female protagonist in horror slashers. Because you see it in Candyman, you see it in Hellraiser, you see it in Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, you know,
It's in
Scream,
everything.
literally Scream,
Yeah.
and that's obviously
But
a
Scream
satire.
plays with it
Yeah,
a wee
yeah.
bit, which I like.
Yeah.
Because they make her... Well, Sydney's not really... Like, first of all, she's not a blonde. Which is not always...
Well, Kirsty.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
Kirsty's not
Yeah.
in Hellraiser, but she's not, like, completely useless. Like, she's not a scream queen,
Yeah.
Sydney. Like, she knows how to handle herself, and, like, she is kind of wiser than the other characters. She also... We don't get to see her naked.
Yeah. They just allude to it
Yeah.
in the film.
Although they do the whole good girl trope, where, like, the final girl is... But she isn't a virgin at the end of the film, which is meant to be a take the piss on that whole side of it. But I really like her. I think she gets a bit unbearable as it goes on.
Yeah, what, in the next films?
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see.
I think in the third film she started to annoy me. The second one, it didn't bother
Neve
me as
Campbell.
much. Yeah. Courtney
Yeah.
Cox I never liked in the films. I've always hated but I don't think I like Courtney Cox anyway.
As a person, yeah.
Because I don't really... No, I don't know if I liked Monica and Friends. Anyway, that's a tangent. But Courtney Cox is an actual decent, like, good
Yeah,
actress.
yeah.
Probably the strongest out of all of the Friends characters, or Friends actors. But, like, I don't know. I just... Maybe that's a good thing. I just didn't like her character in Scream. Yeah. That's all I had to say on Courtney Cox.
No, I like it. I do love how it does embrace that satire.
Yeah.
You know, like Matthew Lillard
It's amazing.
alone
Best part
carries
of
the film. Literally, I don't think I would be as interested. Like, if he wasn't in the film, I wouldn't really care for it, I imagine.
Well, I'd like to explain. Whenever I had seen Scream, I was quite young. I had never knew anything about it, but I had seen Scooby Doo.
Alright, so you're
So
like
I was
Scooby.
watching. I was like, oh my god, Shaggy's on screen. But to find out, spoiler, obviously, to find out that Matthew Lillard is
Yeah.
one of the killers.
Yeah.
I was just like, what?
Yeah.
That I didn't see that coming because I
Well,
knew
it
him
also
as
did
Shaggy.
the whole twist where it was two killers, which was interesting.
Yes, but it makes sense
Mm.
because Scream or Ghostface does things that is just not possible
Oh,
for
yeah.
one person.
Yeah.
Even with two people, it's
Well, no, I think they were
But-
trying to make that like supernatural thing feel believable, but
Yeah.
also throw off audiences where it's
Yeah.
like even if you suspect which one that
well, I like
You'll
that
get a
you're
surprise.
like, which one did it? Do you know? Sorry to interrupt you,
Yeah.
but you know when Billy is in the police station and
Yeah.
he makes his. Do you reckon it was him that made the phone call? He used his one phone call to ring Sydney,
probably. I think so, yeah.
but he wouldn't have had the voice changer, would he have?
He might have had it on him,
I always just wondered who made the phone call in that scene.
unless he rang Matthew Lillard to do it.
Maybe, yeah.
Mm.
I just
That's
like,
what I assumed.
I like when I look back on it. I'm like, okay, who's doing that? Who's doing what?
Yeah.
Like, what scene?
Yeah. No, I enjoyed it. Worried about the sequels because I don't think the film needed one.
No.
Like, I think it should have just been one. Because at
Yeah.
that point, you're just becoming a parody of yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, there's only so many tropes. There's only so many things you can really comment
Well,
on.
I'd love if the new one, and I don't think they're going to do it, is if they did it. Well, I think they should just do like a spiritual successor where it's completely new cast.
Yeah.
And it's more of like a satire on art house films, art house horror films now.
Yeah.
Because that's all horror is now, is just art house horror
Artists,
films.
yeah.
We've seen it with Candyman.
Yeah.
We've seen it with, every Jordan Peele film,
Yeah.
every Ari Aster film,
Yeah.
even Robert Eggers films, A24 just in general.
Hey,
mainly.
24, yeah.
That is kind of like the new,
Mm.
where people like that.
And they're all really kind of bizarre.
Yeah,
and
like
out
I'd
there.
love a satire on that.
Yeah.
And I think there's a gap missing for that. Either we'll get one, I think this is the decade to do it,
Yeah.
because we've just had a decade of it.
Yes.
So there's a lot of material there.
Yeah.
And, I'd love to see, I hope, I wish Scream did it, but I don't think they will.
Something I thought was interesting. Do you know Ghostface, like the voice?
Yeah.
Um.
Oh, it's played by a different actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Roger Jackson. I think
Yeah.
his name is.
He's a voice actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really great voice.
Oh, I saw that.
love
I
the
love that it
Ghostface
is a
one.
different voice, like
Yeah.
it's someone else playing it, so it just throws you off completely.
But apparently, like Wes Craven was like, okay, I never want nobody. We don't see him on set at all, but so whenever Drew Barrymore and Neve Campbell Neve, what's her name?
Also, they don't know who actually it was.
No, so he was actually in the sets.
Oh right.
He was in the house,
Mm.
and they were actually speaking on the phone
Mm.
to him apparently. So they had never seen him in person. They
Mhm.
only knew his voice,
Mm.
just to kind of like do the whole.
That sort of jump in
Yeah.
a way, yeah.
I really like that.
Because he does he does pull
He
this
does
very
it all.
haunting voice.
Yeah, I think he's really really good.
Yeah.
So I think I think Wes Craven's really playful though with some of the things he does.
Even the
like-
camera angles.
Yeah. Oh yeah, like you were saying.
Yeah. Like I was saying, how the Dutch angles aren't just used for effect and to build suspense and atmosphere, but it's also used to show multiple characters in a shot. Because you'll see sometimes he'll turn into a Dutch angle
Yeah.
while the character is moving. So I think it's done really well. It's not just bang Dutch angle. It's done very well. You can tell it's done by a director who's been in the game for a while.
Yeah.
And
Well,
knows
it's
his
always good
tricks.
when it's with purpose, I suppose.
Yeah.
Your favorite part was Jamie Kennedy.
I hate Jamie Kennedy. I really hate him. He's in the other one, isn't he? I think
Yeah.
he's in the second one.
Yeah.
I fucking hope he dies. No, because I don't like Jamie Kennedy. I think he's a piece of shit, and he's just not funny. And he was the most overrated comic of the early 2000s and late 90s.
Fair enough.
And we'll leave that part there. What a piece of shit.
Actually, when you were talking about Billy Loomis,
Mm.
and you said something about River Phoenix, Joaquin was originally, he turned down the role for it.
Oh really? That's
And
mad.
whenever you said, I was like smiling.
That would have been amazing. Well, I think
He'd be
obviously his
perfect.
last name Loomis is obviously a reference to
Oh yeah,
Dr. Loomis
Dr. Limits
of
and
Halloween.
Halloween. Yeah.
Because Halloween, and we'll wrap it up here. Halloween and well, I find that Scream actually has this kind of personal relationship with Halloween, with Nightmare on Elm Street, and Jason Lives, Friday the 13th Part 6,
Yeah.
and that being the writer, being a fan of
All of them.
well, being a fan of Halloween
Yeah.
and being like, oh, I want to do this, and then seeing Jason Lives
Yeah.
and being like, oh, you can kind of make it like satirical and be self-aware, and then ultimately it's became an inspiration for Scream, and obviously Wes Anderson. That would be amazing. No,
And we want to see that horror movie.
Wes Craven being the director of well, I wonder, you see, I'm very surprised that when it comes to what do you call it, I was going to say Scream 5, this new Scream film, because it's directed by two people,
Oof. Interesting.
which is never the best, but they're not like seasoned directors. Like, I wish they had got like I know, John Carpenter to go and fucking direct, you know. But you know what? Or
Yeah.
no, get an art house director to do it. Get Jordan Peele, or get Ari Aster, or get, you know, Robert Eggers. Get someone who's doing that.
I don't think Jordan Peele would want to do the Scream.
No, I don't think so. No, but I think just even do like a satire on art house genre. I just find it weird that they're getting just kind of normal two directors to do it. It's kind of strange. I'm just like, right, you're saying these guys are like Wes Craven then? You know.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was a couple of franchises. It was Hellraiser. A light, brief dissection of Candyman. If you'd like to hear more about Candyman, we have done an episode on it before.
I know we want to finish up. I just wanted to tell you one thing. I know we
What?
didn't talk about Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh yes.
But I did read that they actually wanted to call the film Head Cheese. Head Cheese.
What? Do you want to call what?
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Oh, Head Cheese.
Yeah.
Why?
That was the original name for the film.
It's a better name.
I just thought I wanted to tell you that fun fact.
The reason that didn't feature in this is because it was too experimental and different compared to the rest.
I couldn't watch
And it's
it.
actually a good film.
Yeah, it looked amazing.
Yeah.
But I just wasn't ready for that kind of...
But yeah, if you want to hear us talk about horror, we have done a Jordan Peele episode. Talking about his two films and lightly our mild thoughts on what Candyman was going to be. Then we've an episode on Candyman, and Shang-Chi's talked about in that slightly. But yeah, it's been this episode. We've kind of wrapped up the slasher genre slightly in a little bow, even though we're kind of new to this in a way. I imagine next year we'll do a similar type one. You know, finally we'll have seen all well, not all of them, but more.
Yeah.
And our thoughts might have changed. I assume we'll do a Scream episode at some stage.
Okay.
Either before or
Can we include the TV series?
after. Definitely not happening. It wouldn't be fair. Or else we'd have to include Friday the 13th TV series, which has nothing to do with the films, but it's just called that.
Yeah. That's the same as it.
But yeah, no, that's been episode 29. Thank you to Buzzsprout for hosting as always. Make sure to check us on Instagram at The Stay Podcast. And yeah, Adam and I will be doing Eternals next week, hopefully. If I care to see it.
Cool.
Alright.
All right.